Welcome to Two Guys.
A girl.
And an MBA. Let's talk about Skype.
Skype is dead. Dead is Skype.
I had it on my computer and it's taking up all this space because, when you start your computer last week and I'm going Skype. Like, I don't even remember using Skype, and I was going to take it off. And I said, no, just in
I
case.
have recently
Oh, I just
You
checked.
see?
I've got it
phone.
on too.
It's on, right? And
I
I'm
better
thinking,
uninstall it.
just in case somebody's using Skype because they say, you have Teams, can we use Zoom? Can we use WebEx? Okay, I'm leaving Skype. And then Skype is gone and I can erase it from my computer's memory. It's going to be good times.
Hopefully, the same fate will befall Facebook one day soon.
Oh, but
Why? But Facebook it's all. Don't worry.
but the interesting, Skype was the leading technology like 14 years ago. They paid $8.5 billion
Yeah.
for it, which is wacky money.
Yeah.
And it's not even obsolete. It's been dead, living in the Microsoft's basement for about like 10 years now. Nobody used it. But that's a lot of money and a lot of how technology has moved so fast that it's incredible, right?
And
I found that interesting.
they spent $8.5 billion 15 years ago in 2011.
Wow.
So that was probably worth,
Mhm.
double that in today's money, or at least more than 10 billion. That's gonna go down as one of the biggest M&A failures in history, I bet.
But it's a failure because it's the like cannibalization. They produce
Cannibalization, yeah.
Teams. It's
Yeah.
also Microsoft
Is that,
product.
did they take the tech and integrate it into
I
Teams?
don't
Is
know
that
how
what?
it technically was happened, but you see this two products which support the same function.
Yeah.
Chats, calls, everything. Teams integrated with other Microsoft systems like
Yeah.
Office, clouds, and everything.
But I can't
Skype is
stand
just separate.
Teams. I can't
Nobody
stand
nobody
Teams.
likes Teams.
When
Nobody
when
likes
the
Teams.
when the pandemic happened and before we did our Boston U MBA all together via Zoom, uh, we had to teach for a year or two online, and we did it through Teams, and it just doesn't. It's not the same as Zoom. Like, we don't use Teams. We're on Zoom right now recording this podcast, right?
Microsoft invested to Teams, and I think they predicted that they don't need Skype anymore. The same happened with Microsoft Explorer browser. They produced like okay, Edge, anything, and don't and die
Mm.
Wonderful Explorer. So they did it by purpose, I think.
I guess
We,
I'm wondering, why didn't they do something like a la Elon Musk, where they just change the brand from Twitter to X? Like, okay, why they just let the brand peter out and just kind of slowly, and then I don't know. I guess, like you,
you know, we
as you,
we studied Teams in either mod one or two where they bundled it with, did some pricing structures. We're going to give you
Mm.
Excel and Word, and it's part of their, I think pricing strategy. But it shows you that that's not their core business. Every time they try to jump into alternative, Me Too businesses, like Explorer is a Me Too and Teams is a Me Too. I mean, their bread and butter, I think, is Excel is still de facto standard for, forget about Google. What's the Google one called? Sheets? That's ridiculous. Nobody
Nobody
uses
use it.
Sheets.
No.
So your core business should stay your core business. And I mean, they're worth $3 trillion now, I think their market cap is. So they're doing okay.
yeah, for sure. I mean, this is a drop in the ocean to Microsoft. 8 billion. They can just write it off. I guess it's like there's some brand equity there, though. Like, we still all know about Skype. And I remember it became a verb, like Google someone, hey, Skype me. Hey, I'll Skype you later.
Mm.
Skype me, whatever. Like, there's some real brand equity there. Like, they just to throw it away, to let it just fizzle out and die. It's just, I guess Microsoft's just not as cool as Apple. We always all knew that. And this is how they handle their brands, I guess, is they just let them fizzle and die. You mentioned it with Internet Explorer. It just, kind of slowly morphed into Edge, which, who uses Edge, right?
Who
So,
I tell you who use. And I got my work laptop, so they sent me this, and there is by default
yeah,
Microsoft everything.
yeah.
Microsoft Office package, Edge by default. So I changed it to because I prefer Chrome, for instance, and with Teams because we manage all our meeting in Teams.
Like you said, it's the default. It's on my laptop
Yeah.
PC, and it just comes up sometimes. That was their strategy with Internet Explorer, which got them a antitrust case that they lost in the early
Hmm.
2000s. So they can't go too far with the bundling, as Var was putting it. You go too far, and then you get blowback from the regulatory agencies. Um, I just like, where does it go from here for Microsoft? Like, okay, Zoom's winning. Nobody's even close. You know, they when Google tried Google Meets for a second, like no one's even close. I guess FaceTime and all the smartphone company, Apple and Samsung and whatever, that might be, I mean, I have good success with WhatsApp, that's Facebook again, IG, whatever, live video on your WhatsApp, live video.
Messenger from Facebook, the
Exactly,
same.
yeah. So it seems
For
like
personal use, if I call my family, it could be Messenger or
yeah.
WhatsApp.
I just like, who's gonna be the ultimate winner in this space, this face-to-face video space. I feel like it still hasn't gone the extra degree of meeting all the users' needs, because we're all not on the same one. Like when we're all using the same, like we're all on the same internet, now. Like when, like some people use WhatsApp, some people use Zoom, like you said, Messenger, other people might be on Teams. Is it going to be fragmented like that forever, or are we going to see, oh, what was the term in B school? Are we going to see, a duopoly or oligopoly, or are we going to have, 10 or 15 different providers, and that's how it's going to be? Um,
I
Thoughts?
can say, brainstorming this topic, I think it all depends on technology. Is anyone, even no name, some startup thinking, okay, let's do 3D, could it be Zoom something? When I see you like on the my I know this technology already exists, but maybe it's hard to implement to real life, everyday life. But for instance, we can pretend that they're sitting on the table and I see you like 3D something. Maybe it's like the next step to make it more real,
Yeah.
because
Tech,
we shifted from offline to online, and now I think it's the next step will be to make online more like offline,
yeah,
to
that's
see
what
that
I'm,
they.
that's exactly my thought,
Mhm.
like more accessible, easier, and more universal. Like who's going to be the Google um, of video and face-to-face, video chats. Like you see in the tech stream, a lot of companies emerge as like duopolies. I noticed, like, do you have an Apple phone or do you have a Samsung phone?
Samsung,
Who has, yeah, right? No, who has a third one? Almost no one. It's
Huawei.
right. Do you
Okay, we
do
have China's
do you use
phones.
Facebook IG or do you use, what's the other, whatever, I'm so behind it, TikTok or whatever, right? Like, a lot.
X, Twitter.
Well, that's, yeah, Twitter's gone. Right? What do you
I
think
still
is more?
remember Twitter.
Yeah, there was this concept called creative destruction. Schumpeter's talks about it in an example using the car companies. I mean, we have like a handful now, but there are like hundreds, and it's kind of the necessary evolution of new technologies where you have like 100, and just they start to like eat away at each other, and then you have like a handful after, and you're gonna see that over, and it's gonna repeat itself no matter what technology.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, you brought up two cell phones. I mean, the leader shamefully was BlackBerry, a Canadian company.
Mhm.
And you guys are probably young, but that thing, if you had a BlackBerry, you were the person walking around with that.
Yeah, the same in Ukraine. You should be super rich
Super
to
rich,
get the, and
super
it's
important, super important.
yeah, that.
And they had the side belt pouch that you take that thing out like a gun, and you're like, wow, that guy must be an executive, right? And then
Mhm.
in like 10 years, they're gone. I have
Yeah.
like I have a relic in my, I'm just saving it because like, I can't believe it,
It's
right?
like
So
a paperweight.
yeah, well, it is actually, and it's so you can see it happened so fast. It just
Yeah.
disappeared. I'm like, wow. So it's just part of the process, I think.
But I think you mentioned car companies. I think with certain, it depends on the technology, how many competitors emerge. Like with cars or airplanes, even let's look at cars and airplanes. Like there's only like two airplane manufacturers in the world because the barriers to entry is high and you need specialized equipment. Whereas you have, dozens and dozens of top car companies competing all in different sector in areas and all around the world, you know, with this kind of like smartphone video face-to-face technology, it's all based on semiconductors. And I think the type of technology determines how many competitors emerge as the main players in the space. I think behind the video aspect, it's a lot of coding and a lot of, you know, efficiency of servers, and I don't know what all is involved technologically. Elena, maybe you know.
Power. It's all about electricity power and chips.
Yeah.
I think it's also the next. It currently happens right now. So the whereas we can get high quality chips for processors and everything. So it started years ago and it still continues. If you want to proceed faster, you need technology. You need these small one chips
Yeah.
and make it
So that sounds to
possible.
me more like the airplane industry, where you need specialized, huge chip plants, and you need,
Mm-hmm.
the barrier to entry is a little higher. So maybe that's why we have these, you know, Meta and TikTok kind of duopoly, two or three companies emerging in these spaces. It's interesting that the socials are taking over the video chat, and you know, we all know Microsoft and Google are never going to be the ones to catch up on the socials. You know, there's too many failed situations. I mean, I read a thing, you know, microphones failed. What was it? Smartphone. I was like, there was a Windows phone. I didn't even hear about this. I didn't
Yeah,
even know.
yeah,
Oh
there
yeah,
was.
it
Yeah,
That's
was.
how
came and
poorly it
went.
did.
Came and went.
I miss Nokia. It was my first phone, second phone, third phone. It was Nokia, Nokia,
Yeah.
They
Nokia,
were,
and
yeah.
then
They bought
iPhone.
Motorola. I think Microsoft bought Motorola, if I'm not mistaken, and then made that into. And they if Motorola wasn't dead, Microsoft killed it. It was like
Mm.
over. It's like a kiss of death. Microsoft buys you, you're going to be obsolete in like 2 months. Don't
Yeah.
let them do it.
Yeah.
Unless they sponsor this podcast, then we're might be cool.
We'll be rolling in Rolls Royces if the Microsoft sponsors this podcast.
5.0, 5.0, baby.
Please consider subscribing below.
Thank you for being with us. Please leave your comments, feedback, what you think about us, and see you in the next podcast. Bye.